Here we are.
Everyone, it's 7 o'clock. Let's get started with our meeting. In accordance with the order of the Office of the Governor issued on March 16th, 2020, the City Council of the City of Cotulla, Texas will hold a regular meeting at the Alexander Convention Center, 290 North IH 35 Access Road, Cotulla, Texas 78014, at 7 p.m. on Thursday, August 13, 2020. Council will have the option to attend in person or by conference call. The citizens of Cotulla will also be able to listen to the meeting by video conference. Public comments will only be accepted in writing no later than 30 minutes in advance of the meeting by sending them to City Secretary Bianca Maldonado at biancam.citysecretary@gmail.com. Roll call. I believe Mr. Gilbert Ayala.
Mr. Ayala called me and said he had an emergency in Houston and was calling me from Houston. Also, Mr. Luis Ayala called me and said that he continued to have problems with his legs. I guess he has gout and he's not able to sit for very long.
So first with Mr. Gilbert Ayala, I need a motion to excuse Mr. Ayala.
So moved.
First motion made by Mr. Lopez. I need a second.
Second.
Second by Mr. Garcia. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Motion carries. Now, Mr. Luis Ayala, I need a motion to excuse him.
I'll make the motion.
First motion made by Mr. Garcia. I need a second.
Second.
Second by Mr. Gonzalez. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay.
Nay.
Motion carries. You said nay, Mr. Lopez?
Yes, sir.
Well, I got Mr. Lopez saying nay. The motion is defeated.
What?
Motion is accepted, I'm sorry, with a majority vote. Moving on to Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Citizens to be heard. In order to limit the number of people in attendance per the governor's order, public comments will only be accepted in writing no later than 30 minutes in advance of the meeting. Sent them to City Secretary Bianca Maldonado at biancam.citysecretary@gmail.com. City Council cannot discuss any present issue, nor may any action be taken on any given issue at this time. Was there any citizens to be heard, Ms. City Secretary?
No, sir.
Thank you very much. Just a quick question to our city administrator. I had a call. Some citizens are concerned about speeding. So I wanted to see if there's any information that we could give our citizens as to when we need them or why we put them throughout the city.
There is a misconception that we put speed bumps at will. Speed bumps are a last resort. We typically try to put them on side streets that people use to take shortcuts. What we try to avoid are general thoroughfares because they have a heavier traffic volume, and speed bumps are very counterproductive to emergency vehicles. They cause all sorts of problems, especially ambulances and fire trucks that have a hard time navigating those things. So we're very prudent in how we select the areas that we have put speed bumps around town, and they're for specific requests that after the request was made, we went out and did an investigation of what was actually occurring in the area, and then those were brought back to council, and council allowed for those to happen. If there is somebody that wants to make that request, we would have to, first of all, go out and look at the situation. Speeding as a general topic should be addressed to the sheriff's department, and as they do in school zones and other areas, address them so that they can go ahead and take care of that. The speed bump would be a last resort because of the complications that it brings with placing it there and then creating other problems for the general community. You have claims of broken axles, tires, all sorts of things that follow that.
Along those lines, I got phone calls también this week. On Johnston Street, there's no speed sign. And this person called the sheriff and told him about it porque andan unos carros. You're not gonna believe me, pero pasan como en 70 por ahí en Johnston.
Golly.
Un white Camaro, un white Mustang. Ya lo reporté about 2 or 3 times. Y vienen y se parquean acá para el lado de Johnston. Pues te miran. They're gonna parquéate en los sides para cuando pasa. Y todo, and he's got a time que pasa este muchacho. No le voy a echar, I'm not gonna lie to you, it's 60, 70 miles an hour.
It's
And sir, I don't like speed bumps for the reasons you're saying.
Yeah.
Pero un speed limit sign.
Well, that's an easy fix.
So if there is a cop there, yeah, there is a speed limit. And ahorita, right now, they say, pues, there's no speed limit, you know.
Generally, all of the streets inside the city have a 30-mile speed limit by ordinance, whether there's a sign there or not. But we'll go ahead and place several signs on that street
Yeah.
to make sure that everybody knows that.
And would it be possible to bring it down to 25, or is it? Porque I've gone 30 miles an hour, and that's pretty bad. On Johnston.
If you want to do that, we would have to put it on the agenda because we're deviating from whatever the
Right.
normal speed limit is.
Yeah,
The normal speed limit, other than school zones, is 30 miles an hour.
And I think you're right, it should be,
But we can put it on the agenda for next week.
Okay.
I think you're right, it should be, the signs that are out there should be 30, some of them say 35. So I think we.
Well, it's
we do
30
need to-
unless there's something that says it's a different speed.
Yeah.
Well, the signs that I've seen have been on Thornton. There's one on Thornton, and it
Golf.
says 35. And
Remember,
golfers.
one thing that you need to remember about Thornton is that it used to be a farm-to-market road.
That is correct.
That was by TxDOT, and TxDOT took it off their system and gave it to the city. And some of those signs may be from that period.
Excellent.
But we can, if there is a 35 on Thornton, we can change that too.
Well, citizens of Cotulla, this was just information for everybody who had a concern on speed bumps and also the speed limit on signs. So I hope that the information you got today from us serves you as an answer as to why we can't just allow speed bumps just anywhere. So again, thank you for listening to that information. Councilman, I'm going to skip to item number 9. Discussion and possible action to hold a food drive with the help of the San Antonio Food Bank, beginning with a small load consisting of 11 pallets, which will feed about 250 families for an amount of $2,500.
Okay. Mayor, we had a presentation by Mr. Mario Oviedo a couple of meetings ago, and we discussed how the San Antonio Food Bank was helping in different parts of the city with food drives, and the currently the county is sponsoring a food drive that occurs on a monthly basis. So I asked Mr. Robledo that we didn't want to try to copy or to interfere with any current food drive that was going on, but in fact, because of the situation and the continued unemployment, that the city wanted to augment and perhaps help either additional families or larger families that were in need. We would restrict the distribution of food, if the council were to so agree, to people who live in the city limits of the city of Cotulla, and we wouldn't address anybody who lives outside the city limits. We would create some sort of identification where we could prove that these people were actually the residents, and we would limit it to about 250 families. So it's almost a sure bet that we would have to take advance reservations for those things to occur. I believe that the current setup with the new city hall and the drive-through that is there would allow us to be able to do that at our current location, or in the alternate use the same facility which was at Plaza Florita before to do that food distribution. Mr. Robledo talked to the county. I believe they were okay with that, and he got us the information that you see before you. We said we wanted to do it once a month, maybe for the next 3 or 4 months, just to make sure that there's nobody out there that is going hungry, and that there's no one in the community who is lacking for assistance from any source, and to make sure that the needs of the community are met. The 11 pallets which they are proposing to do would be brought to the city. We would have to bag them, from what I understand.
We weren't able to connect them online, but we were able to connect them via speakerphone, so he'll be able to hear. what they're
Okay.
saying and they'll be able to-
Okay. And start off slow to see how it would develop, and if there is an inordinate response, we could increase it. It would cost a little bit more, but the whole idea is to make the community whole, and to make people who have lost their jobs and are struggling with their families, to make them whole as much as we can with the few resources that the city has. And I don't know if Mr. Robledo wants to add anything to what I discussed.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes. Can you hear me? I'm sorry? Oh, okay. Can you all hear me okay?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Well, first and foremost, I don't want to take up too much of your time. Thank you for allowing me to have a few minutes to speak on behalf of the San Antonio Food Bank. My name is Mario Bledo Jr. I'm Chief of Government and Public Affairs at your San Antonio Food Bank. And on behalf of Eric Cooper, our President and CEO, our board, our organization, thank you, Mayor and Council, for the leadership that you provide to your community. As you all know from the last time I was there, if you remember, we're part of a national network of 200 food banks that's Feeding America, and we're one of 21 in the state of Texas. We're part of our state association known as Feeding Texas. We cover 16 counties in Southwest Texas, and we are honored and privileged to cover LaSalle County and your community. The pandemic certainly has thrown a wrench into a lot of systems and to situations, to households across the country and in our great state and within our service territory. Before the pandemic, we were assisting nearly 58,000 individuals in any given week in terms of emergency food assistance, and that number has doubled, nearly 120,000 now. We do serve communities by way of large grocery retailers, food manufacturers, processors, wholesalers, retailers, farmers and ranchers, big grocery stores like H-E-B. Without those folks, we couldn't collect the food in order to get that food out to partner agencies like Boys and Girls Clubs, soup kitchens, shelters, senior centers, and food pantries, 501c3 organizations throughout our 16 county service territory in Southwest Texas. In LaSalle County, our partner is the county, and I do want to acknowledge the judge and the commissioners and Ariana, who works for the county, who fund us and run distributions for us. And not only there in Cotulla, but down in Ensenal. Today there was a distribution down there. Mr. Dovalina, I want to thank you for reaching out, Bianca, and then Juan for assisting today with getting me on the line with y'all. We often look for partnerships in order to meet the need of those that struggle with food insecurity, and now more than ever, there are more coming to our doors and more in the communities that we cover because of the pandemic. Many new clients because of the loss of jobs with businesses closing. It's a really tough time, but there is an opportunity to partner up and to be able to serve and nourish more. And with that said, you've had some conversations with Mr. Dovalina, and that is why I'm on the line this evening. The San Antonio Food Bank, we do run distributions. In the case of y'all in your great city of Cotulla, we could partner up with you for a couple of distributions. A distribution, as far as funding is concerned, would be in the range of $2,500. Now that funding would provide 11 pallets of food, anywhere from 14,000 to 18,000 pounds of food to nourish around 250 families. And our staff can assist with setting that up in your community and working with folks and organizations to gather volunteers to run those distributions, but we can provide technical assistance, and our truck can deliver the product. And so tonight, I just wanted to bring that to you to let you know that we are your food bank. We're honored and privileged to cover your community and county. And again, I do want to thank the judge and commissioners because they have stepped up for so long in order to fund us to nourish folks in LaSalle County. So there is opportunity to help enhance that and complement that for the citizens of Cotulla. So with that, I'll open it up for any questions that you might have for me.
Councilman, any questions for Mr. Robledo?
We would recommend that you approve the motion that is before you to allow us to begin the process and partner up with the San Antonio Food Bank to do this one additional distribution in the community. And of course, because the governmental entity is inside the city limits, it would be limited to the people inside the city limits. And we would come up with the criteria that would be necessary in order to make that happen.
On the identification of the citizens would be the payment stub, the utility stub would be the identification?
It would be, maybe one of the things would be the stub for water and sewer that is paid on a monthly basis.
Right.
This 2,500, sir, is that every time they're gonna You said
Yes.
2 or 3 months, no?
It would be
Every time?
every month, yes.
What is the $2,500 actually buying?
The
Are you
food.
buying the food?
Yes, you are.
So this is donated food to
Well,
the food bank?
it's donated food, but what you're doing is you're paying for the maintenance of the food.
And to bring it here?
Because there's people that have to package it, there's people that have to store it, they have to have facilities.
So you're not buying the food per se?
No, you're probably paying 11 cents a pound or 18 cents a pound. It's based on a pound basis, and that's why he's saying when he delivers the pallets that it's about approximately 18,000 pounds.
And they pay for the transportation?
They pay for everything.
So they'll bring the food,
Mhm.
the city pays the $2,500. Who administers the program? Is it the
We
city?
do, we and volunteers.
Okay.
We would set up the program here locally,
The county does that every month.
but it would be spearheaded by city staff and volunteers.
Councilman, if there's no further discussion, I need a first motion.
So move, Mayor.
First motion by Mr. Lopez, second by Mr. Garcia. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Motion carries.
Would you tell Mr. Robledo to prepare the documents that we need to make the program happen?
Okay. We can go ahead and do that, and I can follow up with y'all tomorrow with respect to the process. And I do want to thank you for the leadership and for stepping up to fight food insecurity and to feed hope to the families that are struggling at this time. So we look forward to working with you and to complement what the campaign is doing at the present time as well.
Thank you, Mr. Robledo.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Moving on to item number 13. Discussion and possible action on a fixed-based operator lease with Cotulla Jet Center Incorporated, E.T. Page, at the Cotulla LaSalle County Airport. Mr. Page, would you like to elaborate on that?
Attorney was here just a month ago talking about this. We had already discussed several times between my attorney and the city attorney, and we talked about it more to resolve the differences we had. We've come to an agreement between the four of us. Mr. Doling was part of the discussion too. And it's presented to you here by the city attorney. We're looking forward to being able to live with this in years to come.
Just for the council's knowledge, I think the actual document has been circulating around for probably about a year now, going back and forth on what the city was looking for. Mr. Page has a hangar now with a company called, I believe, Page Aviation. This agreement will be with Cotulla Jet Center Incorporated, which I think has the same principles.
Yes, sir. It's still me
Okay.
and my family.
So there is a hangar there. This would be a new hangar. It is a 40-year term. It's an initial 25 years, and then an extension of 15 years if there's no issues with performance that the city notifies Cotulla Jet Center Incorporated about. The rent, there are escalation clauses in there, and I believe every 5 years it's a 10% increase automatically. The ground rent is I believe
7 cents.
7 cents. I think I handed all the copies out, but anyway, there is an automatic escalation in there. During this process, I think I did for sure find out a little bit about what a hangar is and why you need such a long term, and it's mainly because of the financing involved in it and how you would Cotulla Jet Center Inc. will never own the land, but it will own the improvement to the land, which it has the right to take under the agreement if it chooses to do so. So those are all mortgaged. There's a security interest that some bank somewhere will have, I guess, in that. And generally, it just requires that these has to be aviation related. There's provisions in there about materials and parking of cars and things of that sort. My understanding, it's a several $million investment. I'm not sure when this is going to happen. Obviously, the first step is to get the lease, because you're going to need that to go to the bank. But essentially, it is there is an Exhibit A to the document I handed out to you, the fixed-base operator lease, and it'll kind of generally shows where it's going to be. We are going to supplement that with Jorge Martinez. We'll do a survey. And at some point, Mr. Dovalina and I have both discussed the need to plat the airport. Because right now it's like, 170 feet, 5 feet here. And I mean, it works, but it's more cumbersome to try to identify. And the taxing authorities, it's a lot easier for them to have, lot one, block whatever of the airport for taxes. So there are items in there that will generate ad valorem taxes and personal property taxes that the city will benefit from directly. The airport itself, if it's covering its own expenses, it's probably doing as well as the city would want it to do, and it is primarily an economic generator to get people to come in and purchase fuel, come hunting in LaSalle County, doing other things here. I think just kind of anecdotally, what I understand is that because of the issues with individuals not wanting to be in huge centers, some companies are looking at perhaps setting up remote locations where they can work. I don't know how much that's going on, but I know some of them are doing it. And they facilitate this by bringing in these bigger jets, and they can bring in key individuals to come in. I think most of this is going on in the outside of the city of Cotulla, but nevertheless, this is economic activity that is occurring in Cotulla and in the greater Cotulla Economic Development Area that, but for the airport, probably wouldn't happen. Because that's the preferred method for people that are running those kinds of businesses that may be coming in from, I don't know where. I mean, Houston, I guess, Dallas, maybe other spots. And Mr. Page would know more about that than I do. But I think it's more of an expansion of what you're already doing.
It sure is.
Yeah,
It's probably double what we've already got, maybe like 3 times what we've got. It's twice as much again.
so I don't think we're adding any new services. It's just another
hangar.
another building that would be built out there.
It's also bringing in people from out of state.
Right.
So it does seem like a long time, because it is 40 years from, maybe Bianco will be around in 40 years. Most of us are gonna
I'll
not
be
be
100.
around, and we won't be doing this anyway.
I'll be 92.
So, but it is,
Yeah.
and Mr. Dovalina knows more about how long-term these leases are, and every airport's a little bit different. When we look at these things, we look at what other comparable airports. So trying to find a regional airport that's exactly like Cotulla is hard, But there are airports around that do compete with Cotulla in some ways for some of the same traffic. Again, I'm not an expert on airports, but I picked up things here and there over the years dealing with the airport. And The city does get a franchise off of the avgas and the jet fuel that's sold out there. That will stay the same over the period of time, and hopefully cover some of the costs of running the terminal building out there, which is another item on the agenda tonight. So I don't know if Mr. Dovalina has anything to add to that.
No, we did go out and we did survey other municipalities similarly situated to how we're operating, trying to compare apples to apples. It's kind of hard because everybody has different dynamics, but we were trying to be very cognizant that something wouldn't be out of line and that we would feel in the end when the proposed contract would come forward that it was fair and equitable to both parties, that one didn't take advantage of the other, and basically that's what we think is represented within this contract, and we feel comfortable that what we've negotiated and what Mr. Page has agreed to is something that will serve the city well in the future for the continued expansion of the airport. It does bring economic activity. When the Eagle Shale was really moving forward, there would be frequent boardrooms that would show up in planes to have meetings with their employees here at this very same convention center, and we had different companies staying in hotels, staying here for meetings, having their executive sessions, if you will, here in the city. And we feel that once the activity begins to resurge, and I think there's some light at the end of the tunnel. Last week, for the first time in the last 4 months, the Railroad Commission accepted 42 new well permits, and it seems that we're turning the corner, and if the price of oil stays stable, that we will see some resurgence in the business, maybe not to the extent that it was there before, but certainly something that will help the city to continue to sustain itself. And I think the airport and the hangar play a key role in making sure that that continues to happen. So as staff, we would recommend that we move forward with the approval of the lease. Mr. Pena has given you the revised copies, and that is actually the copy of the lease as has been agreed to by the city and by Cotulla Jet Sales. And so we recommend that council approve the motion tonight.
A couple of other points. One, this is not an exclusive agreement. If business would support it, the city has the ability to continue leasing other portions of the airport. I know as it stands right now, there is Page Aviation and now the Cotulla Jet Center Inc., but there could be other things out there. The other thing is that the county will have to approve it as well. They are a part owner of the airport. There is no formal agreement that I'm aware of as to who runs the airport, but the city has always run the airport and has really generally taken the lead on taking care of that. And I think with the current composition of the county commissioners, I'm sure that that's not going to be an issue, but it does go to them after this, and that's just for more of your knowledge and how these things happen at the airport.
May I add?
One other thing is that as we continue to move forward with the development of the airport, there's another issue that's kind of been on the table that has never been acted on, and there's a ordinance that needs to be adopted of minimum standards, so that all parties attempting to do business at the airport will be treated in a like manner, and that they will all have to meet the same minimum standards that we are asking Cotulla Jet Sales and Page Aviation to have. And so as we continue to move forward, probably in the meeting in September, we will bring back an ordinance that addresses the minimum standards issue, so that as we plat and we do the other things, that they will all be adhered to the same standards. Everybody will be similarly situated, and they will all meet the same standards.
In the state of Texas, the Texas Department of Transportation primarily regulates the airport, so that the standards will be generally their standards. We again, these documents have been around for a while. It's just getting it through the process and getting it enacted by the city.
Mr. Page, you wanted to say something?
Yes, I'd just like to add something that Larry mentioned, that we checked all the other airports, or many of the other airports around, and compared this agreement to other cities and their airports. We checked them all from small to large. And this agreement that have got before us more closely matches some rather large towns like Uvalde and Kerrville, not the smaller ones like Carrizo Springs or Pleasanton. And Pearsall doesn't even count right now. So this is something used by some bigger cities.
Excellent, excellent.
So it is a good document. It's even, again, if anybody thinks that the city will be making even tens of thousands of dollars from the airport, that's not going to happen. But the idea is that through grants that TxDOT provides, through some taxes, through other things,
Right.
that you eventually have an entity that sustains itself, and then it does all the other things that it's supposed to do.
Councilman, any other discussions or questions for Mr. Page or Mr. Peña or our city administrator? If not, I need a first motion to approve item number 13. First
Second.
motion made by Mr. Garcia. I need a second.
Second.
Second by Mr. Lopez. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Motion carries. Moving on to item number 14, discussion and possible action on a terminal lease with or entity designated by E.T. Page at the
Next week.
Cotulla LaSalle County Airport.
This is something in conjunction with the FBO. The city hired Mr. Page as the airport manager probably a couple of years ago. And as you know, there's a new terminal office out there. What this is essentially, it is a long-term lease of 2 spaces there within the airport terminal building that are not part of the manager's office, because he uses the manager's office now. If there's a new manager in the future, that manager takes that office. I believe this covers about 400 square feet, so it's pretty small. The rest of it is reserved to the whoever else might want to go out there at some point.
Right.
So this was really brought to you tonight as more of something to look at. I think it's probably something that once we get a price per square foot, which we don't have right now, that the council, can come back and approve the final agreement. But this is the form that we want to use. And again, it has very similar language on escalations and the cost, insurance requirements, other types of things that you would find in a normal lease, especially one that's going to be around for a long time. And these 2 agreements will be very long term, both of them. So when we talked about it, was it Wednesday? So well, let's take it to the council and look at it. I would just, I guess for tonight, there's probably not a reason to do anything, but just to look at it to see where that is. And again, it's a really, actually pretty small part of the actual terminal building. The one thing to keep in mind, the lessee in this case, which would be Cotulla Jet Center, would be responsible for paying for the utilities there at the terminal office building. The city will provide water and sewer only. If there are other tenants in the future, that may be changed, to get everybody to, you can't put separate meters in that small of a building, but you can apportion part of the utility costs based on your square footage. There are ways to do it.
Right, yeah.
So the rent is an issue that we're studying right now. Again, it is something when you see the final number to remember that doesn't include keeping the place operating. And most places, if you rent them, you have to provide your own utilities. But it just we'll see how that works. And I'm if there's
Like I said earlier, we judge this against larger cities, and this is actually more than they're paying in Uvalde, and it's about the same that they're paying in Kerrville, and both of those are probably about 5 times larger than we are. Similar airports, though.
One thing that we want to do is to paper it up well, so that 20 years from now somebody's looking at this and like, what did they do? How did they come up with this? And by having those documents available, we can show, hey, we went out and did what we could to try to find comparables, and it's just not easy to do in a city, Cotulla, because there's not a lot of commercial activity here.
So we're revisiting and analyzing the other airports again to look at how their terminal operations have been done to make sure, as Steve says, that we have a good document so that you don't have somebody coming in the future and saying you guys gave it away or you didn't do a good document or whatever may be said, so that people understand that an airport, much like a convention center, is a loss leader for the community, similar to what you see in retail business where Walmart puts the gasoline at a cheaper price than everybody else because they want to attract people to their store. We basically are going to end up doing something very similar with the terminal, where we charge less of a price for the operation, because the intent is not necessarily to make the revenue within what is being charged in the lease, but rather it's with the people that are being attracted to the airport to come to the community to settle their business or to create a business within the community, to stay in the hotels, to buy food, to go to the restaurants, to do other things that typically are done by people coming to the airport. And keep that in mind as you go forward. The contract that you have before you, the format of the contract, is probably not going to change much, except some wording and some pricing that is going to be done. We hope to bring it back to you by September so that both leases are concurrent with each other, and that means that they would be renewed and expire at the same time, so that whoever is in city administration at the time would not have to dig through a lot of paperwork to find one document here, another document over here. You would find both documents that are basically married to each other, and that they're proceeding at the same path, and that they terminate and get renewed on the same dates, making it easier to administer the contracts over the course of time.
as the city grows in its sophistication and in its ability to implement financial controls, one of the things that you're going to want to do is every 3 to 5 years go out and look at the books, make sure everything's matching up. We just recently did that at the airport, and it was quite an undertaking because of the amount of time that had passed. But these are things that you need to look at. You need to look at constantly to make sure that if there is a problem, that it doesn't grow into a huge problem, and that these things can be addressed close in time to when they might first surface. And again, those are management issues, you know, and which kind of speaks to a larger issue at the city. You know, for years, Cotulla did things. Somebody threw an agreement in the drawer. You know, 10 years later, and 4 mayors and 3 city administrators, nobody had any idea what anybody had done. The institutional memory was lacking, and there really weren't a lot of controls. So you're talking about a city with a several $1 million budget, with plans of being even bigger, and you can't do this without people in the office that know what they're doing,
Right.
including your city administrator, your city secretaries, and people who are assigned these duties. We have seen a tremendous amount of change in 10 years, but there's still a lot to be done. And I'm not saying you have to hire a bunch of people to do this, but you've got to train the people that you have, and you've got to keep them. And you have to have a way to stay on top of these things. Those audits that we do every year that we spend all that money on, they don't look at this stuff. That has nothing to do with us going in compliance and looking at how are our franchise agreements, how are these leases being handled, are we collecting what we're supposed to be collecting. I think this is probably a good time to make that point.
Yeah.
You know, we've got 2 individuals now at the city that both have their certifications as municipal secretaries, Bianca and Georgia. And I can tell you, I've worked in a lot of cities, and that's rare. In San Antonio, you see them. Smaller cities, they don't have them. You know, you have to train your people. You've got to keep your people, and you have to have somebody that can lead those people.
Right.
Any other questions?
We're not
Councilman?
asking for any action to be taken, just for you to review what we gave you.
Item 14, no action is needed.
We do intend to bring it back in September, though.
So please review the information on item number 14. It will be brought back in a more collective and more organized way with numbers and ready to be signed.
Yeah, I think the only hiccup at this point is what is the rent going to be? And I think everything
Right.
else is pretty much agreed to.
So
What is a rent average? No quotes, just.
It's so many cents per square foot.
Oh, okay.
It varies,
It's not a huge amount.
but it's not a lot of money.
Right, 400 square feet is half the size of a really small apartment.
Right.
It's two offices and a closet. to be precise.
Don't forget the bathroom, sir.
No, that's a giveaway.
That's a giveaway. Well, moving on to item number 15. Mr. Page, thank you very much for being here with us. Have a good evening.
You're always
Mr.
welcome
Page.
to come by the airport, and I'll answer any questions you got.
Yes, thank you. Moving on to item number 15, discussion and possible action on a request submitted by Manuel Rodriguez to rezone lot number 6-8, block 6 of the Juan M. Rodriguez addition to build and operate a tire oil change shop.
Yes, sir. This is Manuel.
Manuel.
Yeah, I want to make a tire shop. I want to open it up for after hours. There's a lot of people that work, till 5 o'clock, 5:30, and everywhere's closed. and I want to open up till 9 o'clock, you know. So I wanna help out other people, you know, that don't have time to go and fix their flats or anything, you know. I wanna be open every day of the week, Saturdays and Sundays, and just to help out our town and other people that need help. I know how it feels that I need a tire fix and there's no one open, and that's what I'm here for, to help out our town. Also,
Well, pending the application, completing the application, completing everything.
Where's this lot at?
it's on Hidalgo Street, close to where the sewer is at,
Blanca on
where the city.
It's like a couple of blocks from the sewer plant.
Yes.
This is
And
residential.
people will not
Yes.
complain of a tire shop around there? Or?
Well, he's asking for
A hearing?
rezone, and you're gonna have to follow the process of having a public hearing. I think Bianca's talked to the gentleman and explained to him that you're gonna have to put it in the newspaper. You're gonna have to let all the residents around there know that this is what he intends to do. And then you have to have a public hearing. I'm not sure how we're gonna do that, but we're gonna have to have a public hearing and follow the process that you would with
Right.
any other.
You have to notify everybody within 200 feet of the proposed area. The problem, it's the same problem that we've had forever. The zoning map in Cotulla is just outdated. It needs to be revised. You know, if you approve, if you go to that part of the city, you'll see commercial stuff kind of scattered here, people doing stuff in their backyards, you know, and it's just allowed to happen, even though the map says, you know, this is part of a bigger problem, and one that could take a lot of money and many years to straighten out. The newer areas, town's fine. You know, this is zoned the way it is.
Right.
It's just, I mean, I drive around, I look at stuff, and I can see people running businesses where they're not supposed to be running them, you know, and they've probably been doing it for years, you know, and
That place that you're talking about, it was already being used as a commercial
No,
property, no?
no, it was an empty,
right next to
it was an
Plaza
empty
Sanchez.
area.
Oh, okay.
There were like 4 or
It's an
5
empty
lots
lot.
that were
I
empty.
guess that's something about the other side of the street.
No, it's
so what the city probably needs to do is you have to have what they call a comprehensive plan. We may have one somewhere in a drawer somewhere, you know. And I think you're going to have multiple zones. You're going to have strips of areas along the main thoroughfares, which kind of naturally evolve into your commercial areas, like right here on Highway 468, you know, coming out this way. If you look at the zoning map, you know, it doesn't match up. And I almost feel sorry for the people who come in to follow the rules, and you have to say, well, you know, we can't do it because it's a spot, you know, it's a spot zoning or something. So
Yeah,
But
you pay-
Manuel, you've already built, no?
Yes, I already built, and I invested a lot of money in it.
We had to notify him that he had to stop because it was non-compliant. And I guess when he came in to do the shop, he didn't realize that he needed to come and do all these things that we're talking about. The map that you currently have, and when you try to enforce compliance with the map, people immediately tell you, well, so-and-so has something over there, and so-and-so has something over there. And we don't know when those things were established, so we can only move forward with what we're currently doing to make sure that we're trying to stay within the zones. You do the hearings so that when there is going to be a deviation, there is an authority that is telling them, yes, we're going to rezone and this is what we're going to do. and everybody's in agreement with this happening, so that you can later go out and address the issues. We have looked diligently at rezoning and doing an actual door-to-door rezoning activity, and it costs you 3 or 4 years, and it would cost you $3 or $4 million to do, to get a map that actually depicts what is currently on the ground. You can only assume that what is on the map and is non-compliant was grandfathered when the map was put in place. And people who have establishments that are within neighborhoods that can say or prove that they were grandfathered, there is nothing you can do about changing that to, for instance, a commercial into a residential, because he's surrounded by residential.
I've seen
You can't do anything about it.
I've seen comprehensive plans cost $300,000-$400,000, and they're incomprehensible. They say nothing, and it's a document this big.
We have one of those.
And so I don't know whether it's an issue. Maybe just repeal all your zoning ordinances and start over again. I mean, I don't know what you would do.
I don't think that would be feasible. That would just create chaos.
So there's more work that he has to do before we can actually come back.
Yes,
and
he still needs to do some things. He needs to get together with Bianca. He needs to work the thing and make sure that we at least follow the process, so that we don't have the people in the neighborhood being upset if there at some point there's a rezone and everybody's against it.
So no action will be taken on this.
So you can't take any action tonight, but he does have to go with Bianca, and she needs to further explain the process to him so that he can work with her to see how it is
Right.
that we can fix the problem.
It's part of a bigger problem. And Larry's right. It would cost a ton of money to do it, and what are you really getting out of it? But I can tell you, again, I drive this community a lot, and you just see it. It's everywhere. You know, and people just like, you know, if they don't like the guy with what he's doing, they go talk to him, and somehow they work it out or whatever, you know. But it is a problem, and the city can't do anything tonight. It's going to have to follow that process.
So Manuel can at someday start that business, or
No, he has to
He has
go.
to just follow the process.
He has to follow the process with the hearing, with the publication, with the notice to the neighbors. Once that's done, then we have a hearing before the council meeting where you in fact talk about the rezone, and people, I would guess, are somehow allowed to come and give their opinions. That
Right.
then gets recessed. It then gets placed on the council, and then the council takes action one way or the other.
So the city council in a type A general law city can have a planning and zoning commission, and if it doesn't, which we don't, you are the planning and zoning commission. So you would adopt it by ordinance, you would change the map, at some point it would reflect the zone change, exactly where it is, and then at some point it would hopefully match up with all the other records. It's Mr. Dolina and I could go down the list of things that need to be addressed, and that's important. But water and all the other things that you have to spend your money on are important.
Well,
too.
just as long as he knows what he has to do, and then we'll bring it back.
Yeah, the city.
Ma-
We've
Manuel?
done them. Bianca knows how to
Yeah,
do it.
yeah.
I've sent her the forms.
And he's aware, so.
Yeah.
Manuel, you wanted to say something?
Yes, is there any way that I can get signatures from the
No, that's part of what you do.
okay.
When you do the process that Bianca's gonna explain to you, it's to your benefit to go to everybody that's your neighbor
Yes.
and get them to sign saying it's okay, that they agree. Because when you have the hearing, you present that and you
Yes,
say, I have all the signatures of all these people who don't mind my doing what I'm doing.
Yes, sir.
And that would be
It's
to your
200 feet.
benefit.
Okay.
200
Yes,
or
sir.
250?
And that's to your benefit.
Yes, I will follow everything that y'all are gonna tell me to, tell me to do. I will do it. And I'm excited for this, you know?
Right?
I'm very excited.
I'm sure.
And,
For right now, do a road service,
yeah.
road calls.
Well,
That's a harder thing you do.
I do want to thank you for being here. A lot of people wouldn't have come
Make sure
here.
you get in touch with them.
Yes, I will.
So I really appreciate you being here with us,
Thank you.
you know, a lot, so.
Thank you,
I
Mario.
guess that's it. Thank you very much. If you want to go with, meet with Bianca, she'll tell you, or give you all the documentation you need to complete to be in compliance. Thank you, sir.
Dale, sir.
I'm going to come back to number 5, departmental and committee reports.
We've submitted the reports in writing, but if you have any questions related to any of them, I do want to note that we knocked down 2 different houses, one on Orozco and one on Mendez, that were really eyesores, and we're going to continue trying to get those properties cleaned. We do have the new water well online.
Yeah.
We're having a final inspection next Wednesday, and we should have the engineer and the contractor sign off on it. I know tonight you have 2 items on the agenda related to final payments other than retainage, and so we've almost finished completely paying off the thing. And we're waiting for some reimbursements to come back.
When you say online, is it pumping water for
Yes.
distribution?
Yes,
Oh.
it's connected to our distribution
I saw
system.
guys building a little shed.
Yeah, we built a what we don't have, and we noticed, we have this man Carlos Ayala building.
He was there.
A little shed
That's
to
good.
cover the panel boxes from the sun,
Yeah.
because they're getting really hot, and they're blowing our fuses, and they're creating problems for us. And so we're going back, and we're not just doing that to the new well, we're doing it to the other wells.
Buckley también.
Yes, and we have an issue with the Buckley well.
Yes.
When we had the storms in June, we had lightning strike, particularly the areas that are either lift stations, the panel boxes in the lift stations, the sewer plant. We had some issues with AEP. In fact, we met with AEP representatives at 10:30 this morning, and we're trying to do different things to make sure that when a storm comes, we don't get affected as much. Even though we had lightning arresters at all of the plants, we still got hit. In fact, the panel box at Atilano got a direct hit, and it in fact hit the panel box, burnt all the fuses, and it was on fire at some point in time, and so we had to replace the entire panel box. The Buckley well, from what we were told today, is on something called a delta configuration, and it's got 3 wires. I don't know anything about electricity, so I'm just repeating what I heard. It's got 3 wires, and one of the wires is ground. We had a submersible pump in it, and apparently when you have that configuration with the submersible pump and you get a lightning strike, it tends to kill the submersible pump in the ground. And we currently have a submersible pump that doesn't work. they suggested that we go with the Y instead of the Delta, which is a 4-wire type of configuration that is much better for what we use. And in fact, the other wells, including the new well, all have that 4-wire configuration, and they were barely affected by the storm. And so we've now asked AEP to change the configuration at that plant to go to the 4-wire. And we have another item on the agenda that addresses the pump itself. But they claim that because we are in a valley and we're within the Nueces River, that they have a tendency to get more lightning strikes in this area than in other areas around us. And so we're trying to do and to prepare for those lightning strikes so that we don't get affected as much. We believe that all total, from the lightning and everything that happened, that it was like a $40,000-$50,000 hit. In fact, our operation at the sewer plant actually operated on a generator for 3 days in the process.
That's good.
Sir, just for information for our citizens on the houses that were torn down, some of our citizens have the misconcept that we are taking people's lands, and they don't understand that we're trying to just clean up our cities. And I want to see if you can shine clarification to that.
When we have a abandoned home that is substandard, we make contact with the owner of the property. We try to get them to clean the facility on their own, and we try to help them in any way that we can to make sure that that happens. The ultimate goal is to make the city cleaner and beautify the city with what we currently have. When we actually go in there and help demolish, and the only reason that we go in and help demolish is because there's not another contractor in the city that comes in or can come in to do the demolitions. Usually we agree on a price of what it would cost for us to haul the materials from the location and the number of hours that it would take for us to go in there and demolish a house. In this particular instance, the 2 houses that we demolished, the owner of the properties, or through their son, I believe, because the owners were elderly people, actually paid the city to demolish a house on the price that we agreed. And once he paid, we went ahead and did the demolitions. If we can't find the owner of the property, the city goes in and determines what the price structure will be based on the size of the house and the material that is in the house. And we go in and demolish the property, and we place a lien on the property. We do nothing else. The only thing that does is that if at some point in the future the owner of the property wishes to sell the property, then they have to pay the lien that is on the property off first, or as part of their land sale. We don't take anybody's land. We don't do anything with that in order to do what we do. The basic intent is to clean the city and to make it look nicer.
Thank you. Councilman.
Just to clarify, the city could foreclose on the lien, but it doesn't.
Right.
And in the vast majority of these cases, the owners of the properties that were once living there are either deceased, or they moved off, or somebody died, there was no will, there's a bunch of different people. Nobody really knows who owns it. And in many of these cases, these homes come to our attention because they're actually on the foreclosure list, the list of properties that the taxes are not paid on. And so by filing the lien, cleaning the property, it facilitates the sale of the property, typically makes it a lot easier to sell a property that doesn't have an old burned up house on top of it. The way that the lien works, the city is paid first, and then the taxes. And so it's actually a much needed thing. Nobody is going out and taking anybody's property where somebody's living in it. In fact, most of these homes, people haven't lived in them in years.
Many years, yes.
Many years.
But we have seen people go in there and buy the properties after we clean them and then put in a home or some other thing, and it then becomes a useful property again within the city.
Yes.
And pays taxes.
And pays taxes, yes. Councilman, anything you want to add or share on that?
I need to ask Mr. Duvalina three questions. The status on the Ortiz project.
The Ortiz project is going through environmentals. We currently already have 100% of the design. We're just waiting for the agency at the state to give us the approval on the environmental so we can go out on bids. That is also the same issue with the water line that's going to the airport.
Okay.
We're waiting for a TxDOT permit, but we've got the contractor already on site, ready to start that work. And we also currently have a water tower that is going to be placed at the Public Works Yard on the corner of Engineer Lane. And the plans are currently being reviewed by the Texas Water Development Board. Last week, the gentleman indicated that within 20 days he would give us final approval. Once he gives us final approval, we're going to go ahead and go out on bids for that particular project as well.
Okay. And the status on the Pole Street and Lane Street?
We have issued a contract to Jorge Martinez with S&B Engineering, and he is beginning the process of the design. I think he had some surveyors here for the design of Pool Street, and we intend to repave Pool Street from Goff to Hall. We also intend to take Southwest Lane from Thornton to Dobie, and there is an underlying drainage issue that is there, and we are trying to figure out what is the best solution for the drainage. The drainage is totally inadequate. When it rains, it floods all of that area. There are several homes within the area that have low backyards, and that they also retain water and flood. But these are things that happened many years ago when these homes were developed as individual homes, and nobody required anybody to do adequate public infrastructure to make sure these issues didn't happen. And so some of these homes may have been in there 30 or 40 years, and we're now going back and fixing the problems that should have been fixed many years ago, so that this would not have occurred. And so we have different problems in different areas of town that little by little we're fixing the problems. You have another item that's on the agenda where somebody connected a 3/4 inch water line to a fire hydrant, which is unthinkable. Because I can tell you how much water is
There's no
produced out of the
pressure.
fire hydrant when you have a 3/4 inch fire line. And the worst thing that can happen is for a fire truck to show up because there's a fire in this area and they connect to that fire hydrant and nothing comes out of it. And so we're having to go in there as we find these problems. We're having to go in there and attempt to fix them, which is why you have that item on the agenda tonight.
So another question is the status of the Plaza Florita project?
We hired a consultant, I want to say 2 years ago. She started doing all the research and the architectural designs of the well house of school in the Plaza Florita. We are almost finished with the nomination. She has promised that nomination will go to the Texas Historic Commission by October, and that it will be presented to the Texas Historic Commission in January. Once that it's approved, and we are sure that it's going to get approved, it will then be sent by the Texas Historic Commission to the National Department of Interior in Washington, and then there will be a National Historic designation coming back to the community for both the school and the plaza, because we tied both of them together because we felt that they were both talking about education and about culture, and that they went hand in hand. And we're very sure that this is going to happen, and we just need to get the final push both at the state level and at the national level. We did submit to the Texas Historic Commission the report on the new city hall, and they are now indicating that they're wanting to consider giving the city a historic preservation award in their January meeting because of the work that we did at the city hall, and so that the city will get recognition at the state level for having done that work as well.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, these reports are all of these reports that the public has listened to, and what's being said tonight. People always want change, and everything we have done in these reports reflect change and also beautify our city. You know, Cotulla has never looked so good as it looks now, and it's going to be even better. And Cotulla is going to be very prosperous in the next few years. So again, thank you for those reports. Councilman, is there anything you guys would like to add? I might say. If not, moving on to item number 6, approval of minutes, July 9th, 2020, July 23, 2020. If you have had a moment to review them, Ms. Secretary, Ms. Maldonado, was there any changes to our minutes? There were no changes done to our minutes. If you have had a chance to review them, I need a first motion to approve item number 6.
So move.
First motion is made by Mr. Lopez. I need a second.
Second.
Second by Mr. Gonzalez. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Motion carries. Moving on to item number 7, presentation of financial statements by Mr. Jorge Flores. You ready, Mr. Flores?
Sure. Thank you, Mayor. Council members, good evening.
Good evening.
First report is your sales tax report. For the month of August, the city received $114,063, which is 22% or $32,324 less than last year. So for the first 11 months of the year, the city has received $1,566,000 $890, which is 9% less than last year. Next report is a hotel motel report. For the month of July, the city received $55,318, giving us $782,973 for the first 10 months of the year. Next report is the statement of revenues and expenditures on page number 1, general fund. Revenues of $1,876,118. On page number 4, expenses of $2,140,548 for a net loss of $264,429. We did budget for a net loss of $250,000. We were going to use, as of the last audit, the general fund has a fund balance of $3.5 million. We actually budgeted using $250,000 of those $3.5 million for this year. Page number 5 is the water sewer fund. Total revenues $1,401,247. Total expenses on the next page $1,061,619 for net income of $339,628. The gas fund on page number 7, revenues of $249,052, expenses of $244,616 for net income of $4,436. And the solid waste fund on page number 8, revenues of $672,536, expenditures of $763,844 for a net loss of $91,307.
That still has to do with
Does that include the
recuperating
cost of
from
the
the
trucks?
repairs, right?
The
Yeah,
repairs on the truck?
we're slowly catching up on the repairs that we had at the beginning of the budget with the trucks that we ended up having to buy.
Yeah.
Now, some of these numbers should improve once we get all of the numbers that we're going to be reimbursed for the virus expenses.
Waterway.
We'll be reclassifying those expenses out of these funds and create a separate fund just for COVID relief funds.
Excellent. Councilman, any other questions on Mr. Flores' presentation, on the statements, of financial statements presentation? Not Mr. Flores, thank you very much for that presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Moving on to item number 8, presentation of proposed budget for the fiscal year September 30, 2021. Jorge,
Jorge?
the budget? Mr. Flores?
Sit down, this one, yeah. The budget.
The budget?
I'm sorry, I didn't look at the agenda, so. We did submit a proposed budget with the city secretary on, I believe it was July 31st. It's a preliminary budget. It's for your review. Any changes you want done to the budget, there's still time. It won't be approved till probably late September.
And we are trying to stay, just so you know, we did have a loss in valuation of properties. I want to say it was about 25 million. But we, in talking with Jorge, we do believe that we can keep the same tax rate and not affect anybody with an increase in taxes, so that we can enter the next year with a fairly stable budget. I believe that there may be an issue if things continue the way they are for the following year, that the impact actually is not going to happen until the following year. Jorge and I met with the appraisal district people today, and I believe that all of the entities, including the county and the school district and the city, are going to have major issues in the preparation of the budget for the following year. If things continue. Hopefully they will.
And with the decrease in values, keeping the same tax rate is actually a tax decrease.
A tax decrease?
A tax decrease, yes.
It's less money.
So in this budget, are we getting any equipment or?
Not yet. This
No.
is just a bare bones thing that came out when we started doing the workshop. And you have ideas of things that you want to see happen, then you would give us instructions on what you believe we need to address, and then we would try to figure out how to put it together and make sure that we balance in the process. It's kind of like what we did last year, I think. Yeah.
In looking at these financial reports, despite what we all know has been a challenging time, not just for the city of Cotulla, for all cities, the fact of the matter is that going into this crisis that nobody knew was going to happen, the city was in very good financial condition. And, you know, there's nothing that the city can do about decreases in ad valorem values. That's simply a function of the economy. But the fact is that most of these funds were sustaining, and there are reserves. So it's many years of good and prudent financial management that will let the city, and I can assure you, if you compare the city of Cotulla's current financial condition with the other neighboring cities, I'm sure that we are way up there at the top, if not at the top, in comparison to those other cities. And, you know, most of them are relying on sales taxes, ad valorem taxes, you know, in many cases, the utility funds. You know, we've done the maintenance we needed to do, and we've got lots of grants, we refinanced debt. All of those things have allowed the city to be in the condition that it's in right now, and that is directly related to the actions of this council, of your mayor, and of the city manager. And it may not be exciting stuff, it may not be front page stuff, but the fact of the matter is this city is doing extremely well. If you looked at the sales tax revenue for this month, we're only down 9%, you know, from year over year from last year. That's amazing. You know, I heard today that the federal budget deficit for this year is over $2 trillion. We don't have deficits.
We don't print money.
Right. So for those that may not understand, you know, financial statements and things of that sort, I can tell you that the city has done a phenomenal job. We're not running out of water. Our sewers are working. Our streets are better than they've ever been. You know, we're tearing down houses that needed to be torn down years ago. We're not incurring costs in doing that, or very minimal costs. And I feel like, you know, that congratulations need to be given where they're due. And each one of you should pat yourself on the back for your role in not only monitoring how the city's run, authorizing these things, but making sure that the people that are making the day-to-day decisions are doing so the way that you want them to do. And I can't imagine that, from what I've seen, that's anything but exactly how you want it to happen.
We now have done rate studies related to water where we are the lowest residential rate of the 25 cities that we surveyed. The sewer is lower than all those cities. The commercial is the second lowest of all those cities. And we now have a garbage study where we are below average of what is currently being charged in cities to our north, where the average garbage fee is $25. Our current residential garbage fee is $15, and yet you still get first-rate garbage service, you still get first-rate water service, you still get first-rate sewer service, and it's done because the city has been able to function as a team from the very top at this table all the way down to the employees. And that is something that the cities, particularly the cities to our north, are not capable of doing.
Including some real big cities.
Is there a plan to help with the disconnect fees, sir? People that are not working, that are
We actually have held back
terminations?
Disconnects. We have had staff members. We have had staff members that have pitched in their own money to pay for some people in different locations. We don't want to say who they are. They don't need to.
Right.
Nobody needs to know.
No.
You just need to be able to do the good work. And we continue to look things on a case-by-case basis, and we review those all the time.
Of all the things that the city does, the financial management part of it is probably the most important to the quality of life that the citizens of Cotulla can have. It's not a luxurious place to live. We don't have a lot of amenities, but what we do have works, and it works when it's supposed to work.
And along those lines, Steve, I want to say we need to talk about the people outside too, that do the work, the actual work, the sweating and we got good people.
Absolutely.
We got good people.
And they've been functioning during all this time when people have been getting sick.
I think it's an all around.
That's why I said it was a team.
It's a team effort.
It's a team effort.
I couldn't do what I do if I didn't have the help of Bianca and Georgia and Terry.
The water department, the sewer department, the street, the garbage, sanitation. They all need to be recognized too.
And I remember the days when you couldn't get your garbage picked up around here. It wasn't that long ago.
No.
Where the trucks were broken all the time. I haven't seen a dog running down the street in I don't know how long.
Well, they're still around.
Well, when I was around, we used to pick up garbage in dump trucks when the trucks broke down. We used dump trucks. We never left garbage, never.
Yeah.
I can attest to that.
It's a challenge, and again, those things that are very difficult to understand, like with the refinancing of the bonds, and that stuff's not easy for anybody to understand, but all those little incremental changes have freed up the cash by restructuring your debt, by being able to do capital projects, which is how cities work.
That's it. And respect each other,
Absolutely.
And I think that's very important. Respect, morale, professionalism, and it's there. See it every day. See these guys cutting grass, trimming at 2-3 o'clock in the afternoon, and they're going hard.
Yeah.
Well, we've been able to accomplish that because of, like it was mentioned earlier, good management of the monies and everything, getting the right equipment.
And they're not using junk. They're not using broken down trucks.
Yeah.
They're not using broken down equipment, which was always a problem.
So this is always our goal, is to give good service, our guys happy, keep them all happy. You know, this is part of being a prosperous city, so.
That's it.
Any questions on the physical budget?
Mayor, I just want to add that the budget is conservative, but not so conservative as to assume that the economy is going to be shut down a whole nother year. But we'll be keeping an eye on it. Say if things don't improve come February, then we'll address it at that point.
So right now, no action is needed?
No.
No.
it's-
This is
well,
just
we-
for food.
So the budget is
But
filed.
we do want you to look at it.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's on file, it has to be on file for 30 days in
Correct.
the secretary's office. And then after that, then you start the hearing process. And then at the end of the month, you'll adopt.
It'll be in
budget.
September.
Excellent.
And your tax bills go out October 1.
Anything else, Mr. Flores?
Are there any other items that you
Before you run out?
No?
Don't fall asleep on the road.
Second time's the charm, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Flores. Moving on to item number 10, discussion and possible action to allow an emergency expenditure for the Buckley well and allowing council to choose of the two following quotes submitted by A, Wissinger Incorporated, $101,229, and B, Solonsky Welding and Pump Incorporated, $102,160.
We actually got 5 bids, and the others were much higher. We don't know for sure who this Weisinger is. It is a company out of Willis, Texas, which I believe is somewhere around Houston. The other company, Solansky, is actually out of Crystal City, and so it's somebody much closer. The other company is, I want to say, $900 cheaper, but because of the proximity to the other one being so close to us, I would suggest that we go with Solansky.
Yeah.
Some years ago at the Buckley well, and this goes in keeping with the discussion that I had a little while ago about AEP and submersible pumps. Some years ago, using a different engineer, we were convinced that going with submersibles was going to be the answer, and it wasn't. We've had problems with it ever since. So in doing this particular work, we're going back to the way the system was before, and it's going to be above ground, not a submersible. And so we're going to be looking at maybe not drawing as much gallons per minute out of the pump, but keeping it on a conservative flow now that we have the new water well, and we're able to fix the pump, and that we're also looking to change, because when you go and change away from the submersible, you also have to change the panel box. So we don't have yet a price on the panel box that we're going to be looking at, and hopefully it won't be something that's astronomical. I don't think it is, just from the discussions that we had today. But we would recommend to go to Solansky.
All right. Councilman, any discussion? I need to approve item number 10 and award Solansky the Welding and Pump Incorporated.
So moved.
First motion made by Mr. Gonzalez, second by Mr. Lopez. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Motion carries. Moving on to item number 11, discussion and possible action to approve a proposal submitted by Core and Main to replace a 3/4 inch water main to a 6-inch water main to alleviate water pressure issues in the area in the amount of $7,779.20.
This is the hydrant that I spoke about a little while earlier, where a 3/4 inch line was connected to that fire hydrant. by connecting the 6-inch line, it should eliminate the problem that is currently there. And I believe there's 4 or 5 residential areas in this particular area that will also have the problem alleviated, because you have a 6-inch line up here, you have a 2-inch line that goes this way, you have the 3/4 coming in the other way, and you can't sustain the pressure the way the system is. So when they run the 6-inch line to the hydrant and connect back to the 2-inch, it'll create a lot more pressure within that neighborhood that is currently, in my opinion, being underserved.
Where are they gonna tap into?
Where's the area, sir?
It's, I want to say it's on Boutwell. The hydrant is on Boutwell, and the 2-inch is on, Agüero Lane. The hydrant is on Boutwell and Agüero Lane, and the 2-inch is on J Street, right?
Can't be Boutwell.
Yeah, it is. It goes down the street. That's the name of the street that goes by the park, right?
By the where?
By Plaza Florita.
No, it's
Isn't that
Goodwin.
Bethany?
Goodwin.
Goodwin.
I'm sorry, Goodwin. It's at the corner of Goodwin
And Golf.
and Agüero,
Oh, okay.
at the bottom.
Yeah.
And then the 2-inch is, I want to say on
Bagwell.
J. No, it's on J and Goodwin. It's
Alta Vista.
on the view, Robbie.
Alta Vista.
Yeah,
Alta Vista.
that's it. So it's that little grid there. That's bad.
Wow.
And we just happen to,
And who's gonna do this work?
the staff is,
Oh, ¿y quién es Core en Maine?
that's the supplier of the pipe
Oh, okay.
and the couplings and all the things.
Yeah.
that we need.
So va a ser Golf and Boutwell going down. Porque está Golf and Boutwell.
Goodwin.
Goodwin.
How
Goodwin.
Ya te puse.
How much of a distance is it, sir?
¿Eh?
How much of a distance is it?
Son como 3 blocks, no?
It's like 3 blocks in total, because once you do that connection, it'll push everybody's pressure up.
Yes. Okay. About 3 blocks. All right. Councilman, any further discussion on item number 11?
So va a ser the 6-inch all the way down
Yes.
to the fire hydrant.
It's 6-inch all the way to the hydrant, and the taps will be off of the 6-inch.
La de Alta Vista y J.
Not Alta Vista.
No.
No, la Agüero Lane to the hydrant, and then coming up Goodwin to Alta Vista.
Porque en Alta Vista está una 4-inch.
Well, I thought it was a 2, but maybe it's a 4.
We busted it cuando andamos
Sí,
pavimentando.
cuando andan pavimentando.
Yeah. Está bueno.
It's connected to that.
Any further discussion, Councilman? If not, I need a motion to approve item number 11.
So move.
First motion by Mr. Lopez, I need a second.
Second.
Second by Mr. Garcia, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
But
All
can they
opposed
fix-
say nay.
But can they fix the numbers on that,
Motion carries,
Yes.
yes. The number is
You have-
$7,779.20.
You have
There
the
was a
invoice in the
typo.
packet.
Okay.
The invoice is in the packet.
yeah.
Oh, okay.
But the numbers on it, on the.
See on the agenda.
7.
3 sevens and then a 9 and then .20. Moving on to item number 12, discussion and possible action on approval for the final form of interlocal agreement with the LaSalle County for the provision of 2 dumpsters, one to Garandel and the other one to Fullerton.
Mayor, this is something that the council approved a couple of meetings ago.
About 2 months ago.
And I had received a document from Donato Ramos, which I have marked up, and he agreed to it. So this is just a housekeeping to actually have an agreement. It is an interlocal agreement. The city actually will not be charging for the dumpsters, but the routes, there is an existing route in Gardendale, and I believe the one going to Fowlerton would be an extension of an existing
We
route.
actually have service going close to there.
That is correct.
So
It was approved that by the Commissioners Court.
it will, whatever those dumpsters cost the city and the expense of retrieving them, but that, as I had mentioned in the agreement, I'm not sure that I saw it in here, but
Are those 40 or 8 yarders?
8 yards.
it basically contemplates, and this is, I think, something that the council should be aware of, that the county and the city are constantly working together doing things. Sometimes they pay for things
Yeah.
that the city pays nothing for. They don't have garbage collection, so they come to the city, but the city may need a road done or something like that. So the recitals on the agreement indicate that. It is for a good purpose. The community health is a huge thing, which we now really know. You know, so having proper sanitation is just one step in the right direction for those people that live in these communities.
Very true.
The only thing I have is who's gonna be monitoring, because when I was in the city, sir, you were there?
Yes.
I took a 40-yarder over there, and it didn't work, because they were throwing in dead animals, and we had to bring it back.
According to Commissioner Ayala, he said he was gonna give keys to the
Actually-
certain people that were gonna have
Actually,
access to it.
the contract calls for some of those things to be regulated, and the commissioner has indicated that he has somebody that he trusts
Okay.
in that area who's gonna put a lock
Okay.
on the dumpsters and be taking care of that, and they're gonna discuss it with their communities.
And another thing, who's gonna transport those containers, because that truck can't take it. Like they transport, they transport them with, la troca picks them up. Somebody's gonna have to, especially
Like
if
a roll-off?
Fowlerton. Huh?
They need like a roll-off?
The
A
roll-off.
gooseneck or something, because that truck can take it on the road.
Yeah.
With the
Bounce
cable.
Which,
No.
which one?
The 8 yarders, I
The
know,
dumpster.
the truck
Oh.
picks them up.
Yeah, it's got screws to
No.
remove.
No, sir, no, sir, it's too dangerous on the road, because it's only gonna be held up by the cable. So I would suggest, if the commissioner wants, we got gooseneck to put him on top. and
Like,
take
we
'em.
can, we can do that too.
I think that's only fair.
Yeah, we'll do it the safest way possible.
All the city is required to do is to put them there and have weekly service.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
those people in the communities that are going to be served by
sure
this,
He's talking about the regular.
I'm sure that if
garbage
we-
truck that has a
if-
cable.
The container.
If there would be an issue with that we can come to an agreement with Commissioner Ayala. That's who is asking for these
they'll have to
dumpsters.
police it themselves
Yeah.
because they need it clearly. You don't want a bunch of hunters throwing
And
hog
you're
guts
absolutely
in there.
right,
And
they're throwing all sorts of,
those are the
dead
people that are
animals.
going to do it.
Yeah.
The people that don't live there.
And we.
Right.
They do it here in town, so.
Yeah, they do.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, they do.
I've seen them go to the Valeros and stuff.
Well, if there's no further discussion, I need a motion to approve item number 12.
So moved.
First motion
Second.
made by Mr. Gonzalez, I need a second.
Second.
Second by Mr. Garcia, all in favor say aye.
All right.
All opposed say nay. Motion carries. I need a 2-minute recess.
The
All right, coming back into the meeting after that 2 short-minute recess. Moving on to item number 16, discussion and possible action to approve a contractor's application for payment submitted by J&K Utility Service for Cotulla Chemical Feed and Water Main in the amount of $6,074.25.
This is the final payment to the company that was in charge of the chemical feed. They have finished their work. We're going to do the final walkthrough and acceptance next Wednesday.
Excellent.
Councilman? These are mainly for information. The contracts have been approved a long time ago, and so these are actually like the last draws of those contracts.
The new well, right? The
Huh?
new well?
Yes. Yes, it's a chemical feed in the new well.
Councilman, if there's no further discussion, I need a motion to approve item number 16. First motion made by Mr. Garcia, need a second one.
Second.
Second by Mr. Gonzalez. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Motion carries. Moving on to item number 17, discussion and possible action to approve a contractor's application for payment submitted by South Construction Management LLC for the Cotulla LaSalle County Airport water main in the amount of $38,295.
This is a portion of the contract for the airport water main, and it's the amount of money that was budgeted for the mobilization of the equipment. The contractor now has all of his barricades along the highway, has his crawler and his backhoe. They're potholing the lines that are currently there to make sure that they don't bust the lines. And he's beginning to bring in the materials that is going to be used on the line. The only thing pending is a TxDOT permit before they actually can start the construction.
Is this line gonna go up that road to the airport? Okay.
It goes, the alignment of the line goes from Engineer Lane.
Mm-hmm.
It connects with a 12 from Engineer Lane, so they're gonna bore under the highway.
97.
Then they're gonna go with a 12 all the way to the beginning of the airport road. Then from there, they're gonna go with an 8-inch all the way to the terminal. There, we have an easement from the Newmans to bring a grid back down along the Newman property all the way to the bypass. And then we have an easement along the bypass to come back and reconnect and make the grid so that you have sustainable water pressure. What that is also gonna do is it's gonna allow for development of that particular area.
So just a quick question on that, that line going to the airport, going to the terminal. If there's any future development on hangars, would each individual hangar have their own water
Yes.
tap?
Absolutely.
Excellent.
Anybody, we're gonna have, because it's a transmission line, we're gonna have stub outs along the way. When the county was designing the bypass, we got together with them, talking about working with the county. We got together with them, and they in fact put a sleeve where the bypass hits 97, and we're actually going through the sleeve, so we're not going to disturb the roadway. And then where we're bringing in the line in the other direction, where that easement is also where there is a bridge structure, and it also has a capability at some point in the future of being able to extend the line into the property, but that would be done by the developer at his cost whenever that happens.
So that would cross under the loop?
It can.
Okay. Excellent, excellent. If there is no further discussion, Councilman, I need an approval on item number 17.
So moved.
First motion, I'm sorry. First motion made by Mr. Lopez. I need a second motion.
Second.
Second by Mr. Garcia. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Motion carries. Moving on to item number 18, discussion and possible action on a proposal submitted by Shade Pro for covered parking at City Hall in the amount of $53,784.
These are pictures of the shade that we're proposing to put in the parking area. It is a buy-board item, and so we have complied with procurement processes. And you want to, do you all have pictures?
It's in the package.
Oh, okay. And we would ask for approval and to execute a contract with the individuals to begin the process of doing this at the new city hall.
Where's this money gonna come from, sir?
Sir?
The money, the 53,000?
We would have it in general fund.
But we do need shade in Cotulla.
If there is no further discussion, I need a first motion to approve item number 18.
So
Is
moved.
that material durable? Is
Is the canvas now?
They do some sort of a steel framework, and then the
It's like a
canopy has
heavy-duty mesh.
is it a 20-year or a 10-year? The canopy has a guarantee on it, the material,
Yeah, it's a thick
and it would
mesh.
be some sort of a color scheme that would match whatever we have with the building.
It's like the ones that car dealers use, right? For their cars out on the lots.
Yeah, something like that. It's not cloth, it's some kind of other material.
More canvas, lona, or?
It's a
It's
little
like a
bit-
polyester,
No,
real
I think
thick,
it's a little bit stronger than
strong,
that.
it's a
I
strong
think it
material.
lets in rain and air, it just keeps the sun out.
Yeah, it does.
Like these car washes have these things now.
No,
They work
it'll
pretty good.
cover-
I've
it'll
seen
cover
them
rain.
used all
It'll
over the
stop
place.
Yeah, it'll stop rain.
So first motion was made by Mr. Lopez. I need a second motion.
Second.
Second by Mr. Garcia. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Motion carries. Moving on to item number 19, discussion and possible action to approve the purchase of Lot 15 and 16, Block 1, Atilano Gonzalez subdivision belonging to Justine Flores in the amount of $30,000.
These are two lots that are immediately adjacent to the new water well. I had a call from this lady's husband offering to sell the lots. I told him that I would bring it to council. I will tell the council that the lady is the daughter of Councilman Ayala, just to keep everything above board. Even if he had been here, he could not have participated in the discussion. When you do a water well, you try to get as many what they call sanitary easements to keep development away from the perimeters of the wells, so that you don't have any encroachments or contaminants that would come into the future. So any land that we can purchase around water wells, whether it be the new one or any other water well, if in the future we have the potential to protect our current water wells, we'll bring them to you with the recommendation to purchase for that very reason, that we're trying to keep the health and well-being of our water system in good shape, and the more buffer we have between them and other property owners, the better it is for the community as a whole.
And that is a good price.
Sir,
And that is a good price that we're.
it's a good practice.
My only question is, the value is 5,000? It was valued, it was,
Well, I don't think that anybody's gonna sell you a lot for that price now. That's what the appraisal district has it, but the appraisal district doesn't have the actual market value of the properties. I would think in any other properties in town.
And it is 2 lots.
They're basically $15,000 each,
Mhm.
which I would think is probably pretty close to what the actual price of a lot would go for.
So if she didn't sell them to you, they weren't gonna be able to do anything on the lots anyway because of the ordinance, right? Because of the sanitary easement that we need on it?
No. I don't think you can stop her from building.
I think we just adopted an ordinance the other day saying that there's a restriction, I think it's 150 feet around the wells, something like that.
Yeah, but they may be just beyond that well. At least one of the properties is beyond the well. That 150 feet, because I think the well's kind of like in the middle.
So even if it was within that area, you basically have taken the property.
To be safe, it's probably better to buy the property. I mean, you can never err on the side of
No.
health.
What I was gonna say that if you had somebody right next to you and you pass this ordinance, you're not gonna give them a building permit because they're within that range.
Is there any future use for that? Do you have any plans for?
Oh, yeah. Because remember, when we did the wells up on Choctaw and Crockett, the reason we were able to stay within the same area is because we had other property. So when well 6 went down, all we did was moved within the same property to the other location and drilled the new well there. And I suspect that we're gonna have the same issue at Buckley. If Buckley ever needs a new well, we're probably gonna be looking within the same area because it's a very productive well and it's isolated from all these other competing interests outside the city where the saltwater disposals are, where the guys that are drilling wells for the fracking and all these things. This is protected by the city as a whole. So you want to keep that area because if you need to move to a location, you want to be able to stay right there. You have all the improvements. You have the water tank, you have the panels, you have
And they're
everything.
all right there.
Pues Buckley, la señora, that lady don't live there no more.
We're
Garza?
we're working on that.
Councilman, if there's no further discussion on item number 19, I need a first motion to approve item number 19.
So moved.
First motion by Mr. Garcia, I need a second. I still need a second.
I'll second it.
Second made by Mr. Lopez. All in favor say aye.
Right.
All opposed say nay.
How do you
Motion
get
carries.
that?
Which one?
Get in the deed.
Just go ahead and prepare it.
Okay.
I've got another document to give you.
We just need a file policy.
I've got another document.
Moving on to item number
Don't let
20.
Alden do it. Don't let Alden do it.
Discussion and possible action to appoint municipal representative to Cristo Rey Management Committee pursuant to interlocal agreement with LaSalle County.
That's not it.
Oh, this is something else. Mayor, this is an item that involves a interlocal agreement that was approved between the city and LaSalle County to manage Cristo Rey Cemetery, which is actually city-owned property.
Correct.
The idea is the county filed a lawsuit a couple of years ago. They had taken over the cemetery as a receiver because of its condition. They filed a lawsuit in the district court, which is still pending, to appoint a substitute receiver, and that would be that committee. So that committee would manage the cemetery it would be subject to the control of the two entities that entered into the interlocal agreement, being the county and the city, who appoint the board's members. And I think it's 7 people on the board. 3 of the churches appoint. I think the Catholic, the Methodist, and the Baptist Church all have 1 representative.
And we have
The city, the county appoint 1, and then there's an at-large representative. So what the agreement requires is that the committee meet twice a year at City Hall, keep minutes, those things I was talking about earlier, you know, so you're staying on top of these things. There will be, the city's supposed to actually, under the agreement, the city is to keep all those records. There's gonna be minutes, it's gonna be organized.
Absolutely.
So there's nothing in the agreement that requires the city to fund anything. As far as I know, there is no current funding by the city to the Cristo Rey Cemetery, even though it is a city property. There is water out there, there's electricity out there.
Is that the one over here?
Yes.
It's by the dump.
By the dumpster,
And
landfill.
I don't know who pays for the water, because I've tried to find out. And I don't
The
know.
county, I think, keeps the well in operation, and the Commissioner Ayala, I think, is in his precinct, and he's doing some of the
I
maintenance.
don't know how many of you all, I know Tani has family there. I do. I don't know who else does here. But that water well is, it's the patched up job. I mean, it works, but, you know, it's not the best. The idea is that there will bring some structure to it. The cemetery is in really bad condition. I think there may be a dumpster out there now. There wasn't for many years. People just threw whatever in the corner, and there's broken headstones. And I mean, I go out there fairly
Tires.
often.
They had a bunch of tires.
We fixed our area. The other problem that you have out there, you have lots of problems out there. But one of the big problems that you have out there is nobody's in control of the place. So people are just going out there and burying people out there without getting any permission from the city. I don't know whether they go to the county and get them. I know the county uses it for a pauper burials. You know, the agreement actually requires us to do a survey. We're supposed to try to figure out who's out there. There's stuff I've heard of mass graves being out there. We don't know. And honestly, I have no idea how that thing is run. I know for many years Reyes Aguero was using his backhoe, which he bought with funds from an oil lease, which is actually, that's another subject. but anyway, there's a backhoe, and it's a mess. It is an absolute mess. And even though we've had the county take it over, it looks better than it did. But it's still sad, because, and they're still burying people there. That's a cemetery that's used all the time. And for many years, I thought the church owned it. I mean, nobody knew who owned. We wouldn't even have known it until the oil lease. They said, "Oh, that's yours," because there was 10 acres that was given to the Mexican colony of Cotulla that was in the middle of this dump. And somebody, if we go back and go to Laredo to TAMIU and look at the minutes in the 1930s when the first graves showed up there, they're probably, the city allowed them to do this. But it's an unfortunate example because of the dignity of the people that are there. You know, these are, in many cases, the poorest of the poor. that are being buried there. So the city has a committee member. You need to appoint somebody.
We
You
need
don't
to
have
appoint somebody.
We have a hearing on the 15th of September to try to get this committee constituted and appointed as a receiver. Uni Flores, I understand they're trying to get the church, the Catholic Church, to appoint him. That's the only other name I've heard floated around out there. I know Tanis was involved with him for a while. I mean, you can appoint one of yourselves to the board. I mean, it's just, it's not going to man.
We currently have,
Let me ask you, is that well working?
Yeah.
it was, from what I understood.
It's working.
Well, let me ask you, sir, does the landfill have a well?
Yes, we do.
We couldn't tap into that, or is it illegal, or?
We actually have a well ourselves.
Pero to give them water. At the,
Oh, to get them water? Oh, we could easily run a water line.
But the
Do you
well-
have to
but
get
the
an
well-
easement?
But the well is working though.
No,
Yeah.
the land is ours. We don't need an
Cities.
easement.
oh,
And it's actually been annexed. It's now part of the city.
We annexed it, I want to say 2
So-
years ago.
So there's a few things that need to be done.
I think that would be a
There
good
has
idea.
to be
We can do it.
there has to be a process put in place so that you've got people that have put metal T-posts out there and tied ropes on them, you know, like
what?
you know, like
To-
where they're
to-
gonna
for their graves.
for the
Oh.
graves.
Somebody,
You know,
Yeah, they
it's,
didn't have
it's-
any funds or
but
whatever reason.
but it'll bring structure to the development. We currently have an individual working for the city doing historical research on that property, and maybe that may be the person that you guys want to appoint.
there is an index of graves out there. Somebody did it.
It's not complete.
That's
Wasn't that,
Jerónimo Garza.
that guy, Simoncita, ¿cómo se llamaba?
Yeah.
They had a little store.
Somebody told me there was a gentleman. I can't remember his name. Somebody told me.
Elias.
Huh?
Elias Hernandez. Yeah,
Somebody told me that there's somebody that has.
he's gone. I mean,
a
he's passed
document.
away, but he used to.
Keep track.
Elias.
Was that maybe?
We
What's your
His
I-
name was
I
Elias Ovalle.
Ovalle?
Yeah.
when if you go down here to the funeral
Let
home
me
and
ask.
somebody needs to be buried, I have no idea how they get permission to go out there and dig a grave.
Neither does anybody else.
I think they're just going out there and doing it. And some of these plots can be identified by families.
Mhm.
There's some open space there. There's some kind of organization, but not really, and it is not a good thing. And it's going to require some money. And maybe if we could bring some organization to the structure, some structure to the cemetery, you may have people who would be willing to donate money, or I mean, it is the poorest, most unkempt cemetery in the city.
I haven't been there in a while.
I think one of the things that long term we also need to recognize is that at some point this becomes a potential national historic land site as well.
Yeah.
Because of the interaction, the culture, and the way this transpired over the course of time, people are interested in how cultures developed in different areas. You know, just like through the research on the Wellhausen, the man that actually designed the building was a man who is from Austin, who currently has a architectural firm that is run by the man's son, and it is the last structure that he designed in South Texas that is still up and running and actually looks like the original structure. So there are some things that, you know, people say, well, you're not going to be Fredericksburg. People aren't going to come in to look at this. No, but there are people who are descendants from here who are gonna come to look once they find out that it's actually there, because there's people here that don't even know it's there.
If you walk through there, and I have, there are service members that are buried there. There are service members with fairly recent burials,
Yeah.
because they give, I guess they, I don't know,
They
the VA
they give you a plaque.
right. It says private or whatever, World War II guys in there. Some more recent than that. I don't know. Maybe you want to. You could allow the city manager to appoint somebody, and then just report back to you who that person is.
I think it would be more important to have citizen involvement and somebody much closer to the situation than somebody involved in administration.
I do know that they want to get this thing done on the 15th. That doesn't mean you've got to appoint somebody by then. I also know that there's a requirement that they meet twice a year, and the minutes be kept and whatever. And I would intend to go to some of those meetings and make sure. I mean, we have 1, 2, 3, 4 family members buried there. My dad will be buried there when he passes. That's probably the last penny that's going to be buried there. But I don't know if you've been out there. We redid it. We put a fence up, and it looks
I've
nice.
been out there in a long time.
Yeah, your plot looks nice.
Yeah,
And there's some others that are there that are nice.
some other. It's almost like a cultural thing. You
Some
know,
people
because
do take care of their
you
family.
see Dallas Cowboy jerseys and all kinds of stuff out there. You know, it's an interesting place, and it's well worth it, since it is a municipal property, for the city to be aware of what's actually out there. Put a decent fence around it.
Yeah,
That woman, Virial, I think, that was murdered, that's where they found
Yeah.
her.
Valerie.
Yeah.
Valerie
Yeah.
Benavides.
Yeah, there's certain things that are gonna be, I wanna say, easy to do, like you mentioned, the water well, you know, the pavement, of the dirt, and maybe the fence line. There's simple things that don't cost a lot of money, that by fixing them and doing them the right way, it adds a lot of class to
And I
them.
think adding, if
I
it
agree.
could be done, the water line, I think
Yeah, it's
people would get.
There needs to be trash pickup out
It's
there.
an easy view.
Yeah.
There needs to be a way to dump trash so people aren't just dumping things out there. Without belaboring the point, I think everybody understands why the cemetery is there. And that's not a glorious reminder of our past, but that is our past nonetheless.
That is.
It is history.
And it is something
Yes, it
now
is.
that we do need to honor these. In many ways, people survived in an era where there was a lot of very overt mistreatment, and yet they nonetheless survived. And those people, many of them are buried in that very place.
Do we have to appoint someone tonight, sir?
Well, you should. I don't know,
Any suggestions, Councilman?
Councilman?
I have a recommendation that we appoint Jeronima Garza at this time. That's my recommendation.
Who's that, sir?
Jeronima Garza?
Oh.
But would she be willing to accept though? Do we need to talk to her first?
Well, you can appoint subject to her accepting, and I can call her in the morning and see if she's willing to do
I
that.
think she would be a good choice because she's a good record keeper.
She's very passionate about history.
I will second the
her-
motion. I'll second the motion too.
All right, considering that Ms. Garza accepts the appointee, as appointee, first motion was made by Mr. Lopez, second was made by Mr. Garcia. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Motion carries. And while everybody's favorite item, it is now 9:22,
This is what you
meeting adjourned.